I hadn't seen a smile on my sister Emma's face for months. She used to be the most cheerful person I knew. Her laughter could light up any room. But after our parents died in a car accident last year, that light vanished. We both got lost in our grief. But Emma, she became almost unrecognizable. She would sit in her room for hours, sometimes talking to herself. At first, I thought it was her way of coping with the loss. Maybe she was talking to mom and dad, pretending they were still around. I even encouraged it. If it helped her heal, I wasn't going to interfere. But then she started mentioning someone, a friend. "We talk every night," she said one day, her eyes gleaming with a strange light. "He understands me even better than you do." I didn't ask questions. I wanted to believe it was just an imaginary friend, something to fill the void left by our parents. I thought she'd finally found some relief. That was until I met him. It was late, around 2 in the morning, when I first heard the whispers. Emma's bedroom door was slightly open, and through it, I could hear her talking. But this time, someone was responding. A low, raspy whisper, the kind that sends chills down your spine, like claws scraping against bone. I froze outside her door, listening. "I've told you," Emma whispered. "I can't leave. I can't abandon my brother." There was a long silence before a voice replied, softly but ominously, "He can come with you too." My heart stopped. I leaned in closer, but the floor creaked under my feet. The whispers ceased. The door slowly opened, and Emma stood before me, her eyes half closed but fully aware. "He says you're listening," she whispered. Her voice was flat, as if she were in a trance. "He says you shouldn't." I tried to smile. "Who are you talking to, Em?" She blinked and turned back into her room. "My friend," she said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "He's been with us since the accident. He watches over us." I pushed the door open wider, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There was something in the corner of her room, a figure darker than shadow standing utterly still. It was tall, unnaturally thin, with long, curved limbs. It almost blended into the darkness. But its eyes, God, its eyes, they glowed with a sickly yellow light, unblinking, staring straight at me. I recoiled, trying to process what I was seeing. This wasn't human. This wasn't real. But Emma didn't seem afraid. She just sat on her bed, looking at me with the same empty gaze. "He says he can take all the pain away," she said softly, almost pleadingly. "He can make everything better, for both of us." I don't remember how I replied. I think I muttered something about needing to think and fled the room, locking myself in mine, heart pounding and thoughts swirling. How could she see that thing and not be afraid? I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house, every groan of the floorboards made me feel like it was coming closer, that the shadow from Emma's room was spreading. The next day, Emma was different, distant. She avoided my gaze, didn't want to talk about the previous evening. She only gave me one strange warning as I was about to leave for work. "He's waiting, you know," she said almost cheerfully. "He doesn't like being ignored." That evening, I tried not to go home. I just drove aimlessly, thinking about calling someone, a therapist, a priest, anyone. But how could I explain such madness? My sister was broken. I was broken. We were drowning in our grief, and now there was something else in our home, feeding off that pain. When I finally returned, the house was dark, silent. I found Emma's room empty. Her bed was neatly made, belongings untouched. There was no note, no sign of struggle. She had simply vanished. I searched the entire house, shouting her name, but found only the same suffocating silence. And then I heard the whisper, the same raspy voice, but this time it was coming from my room. I slowly opened the door and saw Emma. She was sitting on the edge of my bed, her eyes wide, face pale. She looked at me with that strange, empty smile. "Now he's come for you," she said. "He says it's your turn." Before I could move, before I could comprehend what was happening, the room grew cold. The darkness in the corner began to shift. It was him, the same twisted creature as before, but now it was clearer. as if over these days it had gained strength, feeding off her. I tried to back away but couldn't. My arms and legs felt like they were filled with lead. The air became thick, suffocating. Softly, her voice tinged with some strange relief, Emma said, "He'll take you where Mom and Dad are. You'll see. It's not so bad." I'm writing this from my car, parked somewhere random, far from home. I don't know what that creature is or what it wants from us. All I know is that it took my sister, and now it's coming for me. I can feel it. The cold, the heaviness. It's getting harder to stay conscious, harder to think. Every time I close my eyes, I hear that voice, promising to take me to them, promising to end the pain. I don't know how much longer I can resist. If you're reading this, please, if you ever hear a voice in the dark, don't listen. Don't let it in. I've already lost my sister. Don't let it take me too.